Well, brace yourself, sports fans. Not only do we have a new cartridge, oh gosh, but I think we may have something even more significant, a potential paradigm shift in rifles and hunting. Stay tuned. So, maybe I should preface this with explaining what a paradigm shift is. A little bit difficult to nail down, but it's essentially a cultural shift in our perceptions of some aspect of life. For example, I think we had a paradigm shift when the lever action hunting rifles of the late 19th century converted over to the bolt action military rifles that were increasingly being used for big game hunting after World War I, roughly when the 30-06 came out. And it was a transition. But eventually we got to the point where instead of thinking, boy, a hunter is a guy with a lever action rifle and he's now carrying a bolt action rifle with a scope. There's a paradigm shift. And I think the paradigm shift we may be starting to see now is that the new hunter may be carrying an AR-15 style rifle or an AR-10 or something that looks a little more like a military rifle from the 20th century rather than the 19th century or the early 20th century. So whether or not this actually becomes the standard, I don't know, but you've got to admit that things change with time. And what we're seeing in new cartridge development and interest in younger shooters, and they're going to be the shooters and hunters of the future, is not the traditional bolt action walnut stock blued action bolt action hunting rifle. It's just changing. And this 8.6 Blackout, I think, reflects strongly in that direction too. So let's take a look at it. At first, when the 300 Blackout came out, I just discounted it, but it got to be so popular. And now the 8.6 Blackout, this is a 338 caliber, by the way. So think 338 Win Mag, 338 Lapua, quite different cartridges from this little guy. But that's another part of the paradigm shift. For years and years and decades, we all looked for more power, more reach, Magnum cartridges. Then we started sliding into this efficient bullet thing, which I think was really good, because who doesn't want an efficient bullet? It's one thing to get recoil, absorb that, and put up with it in order to reach farther with a Magnum. But if you can get a more efficient bullet to do better than the Magnum bullet with less recoil, why not? So let's get into this Blackout. Exactly what is it? Well, I thought it would be a modification of the 300 Blackout. Whoa, I was way wrong on that one. Look at the size difference. The 300 Blackout has an interesting history. Let's set the 8.6 off to the side for a second and go to this one. Where did that thing come from? We're going to go backwards, I think, in time a little bit. It was JD, JD, I'm sorry, but I'm blanking on your last name now. But JD, whatever your last name is, we'll try to flash it up on the screen here for you. I apologize. This guy has been working with handgun cartridges and trying to optimize them for quite a while. And he came up with this 300 Whisper. And that turned into the 300 Blackout. They're essentially the same. There's a little bit of chamber difference and minor dimensional change. But the idea to him was to take the 221 Fireball and neck that up to make the 300 Whisper, now the 300 Blackout. But where did the 221 Fireball came from? Well, that came from the 222 Remington. And the 222 Remington, of course, was the parent of the 223 Remington. So there's a little family stuff going on here. So why did he use that for this little guy? Well, that can be used in the AR style rifles because it'll fit inside of that length. The length of the rifle's magazine and can handle the 223. And this is even shorter than that, but with the long bullets. And he wanted to be able to shoot those at subsonic speeds with a suppressor and use bullet mass for his effect rather than the pure velocity. So he got his energy that way. So you stick a long bullet on top and you're going to come up to this length. Works in an AR-15, great. Folks loved it. There was your 300 Blackout. Well, this guy thought, I need more horsepower, I guess. And the gentleman who developed this, his name was, I believe, Kevin Brittingham. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he is from an organization or a manufacturing company called Q LLC, the letter Q LLC. Had never heard of it before I started looking into this 8.6 Blackout. Then Faxon Firearms, they make AR-10, AR-15 style rifles, but also some bolt action rifles. But the modern look, this paradigm shift, they started building barrels for it, and I guess now they're going to build rifles for it. All of that stuff is just coming out this very month, probably. It's been sort of being developed since 2018, I believe. It's not an official SAMI spec cartridge yet, but they're making ammunition for it. Several places are making the rifles for it, and they're not all ARs. They're bolt action rifles as well. So what's the point of going so short then if you're going to have it in a bolt action rifle? Once again, they're looking for efficiency. They're looking for the potential to have subsonic loads with big, heavy bullets, and we're talking 300 grain bullet right here. That is a Sierra, I believe that's a Sierra 300 grain. It may be someone else's, but think the Sierra 300 grain 338 bullet. That's rarely pushed even with a 338 Win Mag, and here they've got it with this little thing. Oh my goodness. How did they make that? Now we're going to go back in time again. Let's go to the 338 Federal, because that's where they started, figuring that they could load the big heavy bullets and work that in their AR-10s. You got to go with an AR-10, a little bit longer action length than the AR-15. But they found that, once again, in this new style of cartridge, you've got the long bullets, and they end up going too deep into the powder reservoir to use the old cartridges. I sort of argue against that to a degree, and I'll show you why with this little image right here. You see here how this bullet projects deep into the powder space on that 338 Federal. On the 338 or the 8.6 338 Blackout, it comes just to the base of the neck-shoulder junction. So that's why they like it. Now, my argument has always been, well, big deal if it projects into the powder here. You're losing the powder capacity by shortening the case right here. But I think what they like is the fact that the bullet is not going to extend beyond that junction where you can get what's called an internal donut of metal built up as you hand load over and over again with your cases. So you get extra tension on there, and that changes the tension of your bullet, changes your pressures, and they don't want that kind of stuff. So they're going for ultimate efficiency with all of this. So they thought, all right, let's take that 338 Federal case and shorten it. So there's where the parent case comes in, 338. And of course, where did the 338 Federal come from? That came from the 308 Winchester. And where did that come from? That came from the 30-06 from way back in 1906. It's a family affair. But we don't need to be too concerned about all of that. What is this little guy going to do? Well, the 8.6 Blackout has surprising potential. I really couldn't believe it. I just imagine a short little powder supply like that is not going to be able to handle a normal weight hunting bullet, let alone a 300 grain. So I ran some numbers, and we're going to flash those up for you and take a hard look at it. 300 grain Sierra bullet, the BC is pretty high. That's going to be an advantage, 0.750. The velocity, this is, I think, taken out of a 16-inch barrel. These things, by the way, are optimized for a 12.5-inch barrel. But you can also get 10-inch barrels, 16-inch barrels, depends on what you want to build. The idea with those short barrels is you get full velocity because of the short powder supply in here. You're going to get your full velocity with a fairly short barrel, but that makes it handier. And then if you put a suppressor on it, which of course you want with the subsonic loads for, let's say, a hog culling operation for feral hogs. You don't want a lot of noise. You're not going to have a lot of recoil, so you put a suppressor on front. Well, you know what it's like putting a 6-inch suppressor onto a 22-inch barrel. Suddenly you're dragging a cannon around out there. Well, if you have a 16-inch barrel and you put a 6-inch suppressor on it, you're down to a traditional 22-inch barrel sporting length rifle. Kind of a nice feature. And you don't have the loud sound, so you're not blowing your ears out. I like all that stuff. Goofy as I think the rifles look, they are definitely addressing some serious problems. So we've got this high BC bullet pushing at only 1,024 feet per second. That is under the sound barrier generally, depending on your elevation. So you're usually at about 1,100 for breaking the sound barrier. So it's suppressed. You're not going to have the loud crack of breaking the sound barrier. Zero that thing at 80 yards, and here's what's going to happen. First of all, you're only going to get 699 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. But remember, it's a 300 grain bullet. It's got some momentum, and it's got a lot of weight and mass to keep driving. So at 50 yards, 2 inches high, and 0.3 inches of deflection in a 10-mile-an-hour right angle wind, and you still have 678 foot-pounds of energy. You haven't lost much at 50 yards. Even at 100 yards, you still have 660 foot-pounds of energy. Your deflection is not quite an inch yet, but it's dropped 3 inches. So I'm thinking you've got this thing zeroed to be effective for your maximum point-blank range, going no higher than 3 inches, no lower than 3 inches, out to 100 yards. What's that good for? Most of the deer hunting most people do in this country, whitetail anyway. If you're a woods hunter and you think a 30-30 is ideal, this will do more than the 30-30 probably. But you're easily point-blank range, 100 yards, maybe 110 yards. So why not? Go out to 200 yards and then you start to see where you're suffering because of that low velocity. 40 inches of drop, 3 inches of deflection in the wind. Now that's pretty impressive. For the low velocity, that high BC bullet keeps it from blowing in the wind too much, deflecting. And look at the energy. You're still hanging on to 626 foot-pounds of energy. So it's fairly efficient out to about 200 yards if you know your drops and your drifts and you can compensate for them. It's kind of surprised me. Now, there's an issue with this long bullet at that low velocity of around 1,000 feet per second, and that's stability. You really need a fast twist. How fast? They're building this with a 1 in 3 twist rate. One twist in just 3 inches of travel. I've never heard of such a thing. Crazy. Talk about a paradigm shift. But it does something other than just stabilize those long, heavy bullets. It also increases their terminal effect. Go to the Faxon website. They have a video showing the 300 grain bullet driving into a ballistic gel block along with a slower twist, a 1 in 6, I think, or 1 in 7. They both stabilize a bullet, but you would be impressed with the increased violence and wound channel from the 1 and 3 inch twist. So twist rate is contributing to the performance of this little 8.6 Blackout. But what it tells me is we're sort of dropping back, way back to the muzzleloader days. So I compared it with a 50 caliber muzzleloader shooting a 385 grain Hornady bullet. This is a conical bullet, but it doesn't have a very high BC, about 150 I estimated. Zero that baby at 80 yards. You've got more energy, 1,676, but watch what happens to that energy because of the blunter bullet with a lower BC. So again, the ballistic differences are not all that significant except for the wind deflection. Look at 100 yards, you've got 5.2 inches of deflection on that big bullet. That doesn't have the high BC, but it still has more energy, 1,042. And it's dropping just 0.2 inch, not a big deal. But after 100 yards, that 50 caliber really starts to plummet. So at 200 yards, you dropped 27 inches. The wind deflection's 19, 774. You're getting pretty close on your retained energies on these. So that's why I say that going to this 8.6 Blackout is sort of like regressing back to the 1850s or something with a muzzleloader. I don't know. Well, wait a minute. What happens if we use a lighter bullet, not the 300 grain? Let's go with a 210 grain Barnes TSX bullet. I have used that in the 338 Federal and the 338 Win Mag. Great little bullet for hunting. What can that thing do? We can push it 2,065 feet per second with that tiny little powder reservoir. That's amazing. So now we're supersonic. You're going to get the crack. You're going to get the louder noise. But you put that in a short little 16.5-inch barrel or so, and you're going to have 2 inches high at 50, 3.4 inches high remaining at 100, and only 1.4 inches low at 200. Suddenly you've got a really effective medium range rifle anyway for big game hunting. You're probably good to 250 yards with your point blank range. I didn't run the numbers on that, but look at the reserve energy, 1,438. So you actually have more energy in that bullet as well. So if you're not concerned about the noise and shooting suppressed, you go with a lighter bullet and you have a much more effective hunting bullet. And still with that kind of mass, even though you're dropping a little more, you're really carrying plenty of energy to take a big animal. You're going to get a lot of penetration, both because of the type of bullet it is and the momentum that is retained in a heavier bullet like that. Now, you might want to compare that to the 338 Federal. A lot of folks think, the 338 Federal is kind of a little bit of a wimp. when you compare it to the 338 Win Mag and certainly the 338 Lapua or the 338 378 Weatherby Magnum or the 338 Rum. Are we going to go Magnum and loud and hard recoiling, or are we going to go down to the other side with this paradigm shift? If we can get the job done, why not? So compare the numbers there for yourselves. I'm not going to run through all of those. And you will see that, of course, the 338 with more powder pushing the same weight bullet is going to be more effective at traditional hunting ranges. But still, how often do you shoot animals at 300 yards or 400 yards? I realize there are a lot of people who do the long range shooting, and that's another weird paradigm shift that's going on. At the same time that that's happening, there's so many folks that are going to something like this 8.6 Blackout for the shorter distances. I think it's because maybe they're more pragmatic about the whole program, and they realize that most of my hunting and shooting is done under 200 yards. So those are the things that are on my mind today regarding our thinking, our philosophy on guns and ammo and hunting. Yes, things are changing. A lot of the folks who watch these videos call me and my fans old fuds because we're kind of stuck back in the middle of the 20th century. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I sure enjoy it. But at the same time, I can understand why they get excited about the new cartridges and rifles the way I did when I was active in my 20s and 30s in the 20th century. So I think we just have to open our eyes to the new reality, whether or not this actually does become de rigueur the standard going forward through the 21st century. I don't know, but it's pretty similar to what was going on in the early 20th century. The new projectiles were coming on, the new cartridges from the 30-06 and the 270 on. It just changed things a whole lot, and I think they're changing again. So welcome to the 21st century. Absorb it, embrace it if you want, or reject it and remain an old fud. I think you're going to enjoy yourself either way. Hey, this is Ron Spomer. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up. We'd sure appreciate it. Until next time, hunt honest and shoot straight.